What's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and today we're going to be doing a Satellarknight deck profile. So I'm really excited to see you guys because we just got Satellarknight Ptolemaeus back at 3 on the list, which is absolutely insane for this deck. This deck is super consistent and really fun to be able to play with, so without further ado, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell in there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards, like in your name description every single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your patron. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Satellarknight Deneb. This card is a great 3 on the deck, is basically the Stratos of the deck. If this card is summoned, you get to add a Satellarknight monster from your deck to your hand, except another copy of this card. We then play 3 copies of Satellarknight Altair. Altair is a great 3 on the deck that is basically a walking monster reborn, because if this card is summoned, you can target a Satellarknight monster in your graveyard, except another copy of this card, and special summon that monster in defense position. But monsters that you control cannot attack for the rest of the turn except Satellarknight monsters, which is a really awesome effect to be able to bring back one of your monsters to the field. We then play 2 copies of Satellarknight Vega. Vega is a really good 2 of the deck, because if this card is summoned, you get to special summon a Satellarknight monster from your hand, which is a super good effect. We then play 2 copies of Satellarknight Anukalai. Anukalai is a really good 2 of the deck that's basically a walking Foolish Burial, because if this card is summoned, you can send a Satellarknight card from your deck to the graveyard, except another copy of this card, which is a super good effect. We then play 2 copies of Lord of the Heavenly Prison. Lord of the Heavenly Prison is a really awesome boss monster for this deck, because it has the ability that during your main phase, you can activate this effect that this card in your hand becomes revealed until the end phase of your opponent's turn. And while this card is revealed by its effects, set cards on the field cannot be destroyed by card effects. And if a set spell or trap card is activated, even except during the damage step, then you can special summon this card from your hand. Then, if you activated this effect while this card was revealed, you can reveal and set 1 spell or trap card directly from your deck, but banish it during the end phase of the next turn, which is a super good effect to be able to work with your cards like your Artifact Sanctum, which is just super good to be able to set to your side of the field with your copy of Lord of the Heavenly Prison. I then play a single copy of Artifact Scythe just to lock the opponent out of the extract when you use your copy of Lord of the Heavenly Prison to set your copy of Artifact Sanctum onto your side of the field. I really like this card as a 1-of in the deck. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're just going to be playing a few spells in this deck. And we're going to start off with a single copy of Rhoda. Rhoda is really good because all of our Satellarknight monsters are warriors, so this card can search any of them from the deck. I then play a single copy of Double or Nothing. Double or Nothing is just really good in this deck to be able to use with your copy of Utopia Double, because you basically just make a copy of Utopia Double, detach a material from it, search this from the deck, summon a copy of Utopia on top of Utopia Double. A Utopia will come out at 5,000 attack points, swing into an opponent's monster, negate the attack with Utopia's effect, drop Double or Nothing, and it will go back in for 10,000 attack points, which is really good to be able to OTK the opponent if you attack into an attack position monster that has less than 2,000 attack points. I then play a single copy of Satellarknight Skybridge. Skybridge is a really good 1 of the deck. I have considered bumping this card up to 2, but I feel like 1 is totally fine. But it has the ability to let you target 1 Satellarknight monster that you control and special summon a Satellarknight monster with a different name from your deck. And if you do, shuffle the targeted monster back in the deck. And while that monster, while the monster special summon this card effect is face up on the field, you cannot special summon monsters except Satellarknight monsters, and you can only activate 1 of this card per turn. But it's a really good 1-of in this deck. I'm then playing 3 copies of Pot of Prosperity. Pot of Prosperity is just really good in the deck, just to help you dig into the deck to get the exact card that you need for your combo. So this card is just fantastic in the deck, and usually we're not OTK unless we see an opening with Double or Nothing, in which case you usually don't activate Pot of Prosperity. You just put 2 level 4s on the field and go in for game, which is really cool. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, we're going to be playing quite a few traps in this deck. So for the traps, we're going to start off with 3 copies of Artifact Sanctum. Artifact Sanctum is really good at locking your opponent out of their extra deck by summoning during their turn Artifact Scythe to the field, which is just really, really good. We then play 3 copies of Fiendish Chain. Fiendish Chain is really good in this deck with cards like Triumvirate, being able to bounce this card back to your hand and use it again, which is just really nice, because activating this card by targeting an effect monster on the field, you negate that target's effect on the field, and it's just really good to be able to lock down that monster from attacking as well. We then play 3 copies of Crackdown. Crackdown is a really good 3-of as well, because you activate this card by targeting a face-up monster that your opponent controls, and you take control of that monster, which is just super good for this deck, especially with cards like Triumvirate, being able to bounce this card back to the hand and use it again. It also has a really insane effect that while you control that monster, it cannot attack or activate its effects, but that's totally fine because we're just getting it out of the way so we can go in or disrupt our opponent's combo. We then play 3 copies of Oasis of Dragon Soul. You can play Call of the Haunted instead of this card, but I really like this card because the monster that it brings back to the field is summoned into defense position, which doesn't leave us open for an OTK, which is why I like this card as a 3-of in the deck over the copies of Call of the Haunted. But this card does turn the monster that it summons back to the field into a worm monster, which is not that big of a deal for this deck. I then play 3 copies of Anti-Spell Fragrance. Anti-Spell Fragrance is a really good 3-of in the deck, especially combo with cards like Triumvirate, because it's going to make your opponent set all their spells to the side of the field, and then during our turn, we're going to summon out Triumvirate and make them bounce them all back to their hand, and reset Anti-Spell Fragrance to be able to make them set them again, basically having a soft lock with locking down their spell cards, which is super good. This card also works fantastic against Pendulums, which is why I'm playing this card as a 3-of. I'm then playing 3 copies of Stellar Nova Alpha. Nova Alpha is insanely good and one of the best cards in the entire deck, because when a spell trap or monster effect is activated, you can send 1 face-up Satellarknight monster you control to the graveyard, negate the activation. If you do, destroy that card, then you get to draw a card, which is really good. I absolutely love this card as a 3-of, and it's one of the best cards in the entire deck. I then play 3 copies of Solemn Judgment. Solemn Judgment just says no to anything by paying half your life points, which is why I'm playing this card as a 3-of in the deck. You can play Solemn Strike over this card, but I really like this card as a 3-of in the deck, because when a monster would be summoned or a spell trap card is activated, you pay half your life points to negate the summon or activation, and if you do, destroy that card, which is just super good in this deck. So, that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to be playing a single copy of Satellarknight Ptolemaeus. You can play 2 copies of this card, and I have considered bumping this card up to 2, but for right now, I'm just playing a single copy of this card. But it's super good because it takes 2 or more monsters that are level 4 to be able to summon this card. And once per chain, during either player's turn, you can detach 3 XZ materials from this card to special summon from your extra deck 1 XZ monster that's 1 rank higher than this card, except a number monster, by using this face-up card you control as an XZ material, which is super good to be able to make your copy of Cyber Dragon Nova and then make a copy of Cyber Dragon Infinity, which is just absolutely insane. We're usually not going to be getting the turn skip effect by detaching 7 materials from this card, but we will be able to make the copy of Cyber Dragon Nova and Infinity in this deck. We then play 3 copies of Triumvirate. Triumvirate is one of the best cards in the entire deck. This card takes 3 level 4 Satellarknight monsters to be able to make this card, and during the turn you XZ summon this card, you cannot special summon monsters except Satellarknight monsters. And if this card is XZ summon, you return all other cards on the field to the hand, which is absolutely crazy to be able to bounce back our continuous trap cards back to the hand to be able to reset them on the field and use them again. This card also has the ability once per turn, you can detach a material from this card to send a random card from your opponent's hand to the graveyard, and if this card with XZ materials is sent to the graveyard, then you can target a Satellarknight monster in the graveyard and special summon it, which is a really good effect. We then play a single copy of Deltaros. Deltaros is basically a pop 1, but this card is a really good 1-of in the deck because it has a really good effect. Though this card has XZ materials, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects when you normal or special summon a monster. And once per turn, you can detach a material from this card and then target a card on the field and destroy it. And this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, and then you can special summon a Satellarknight monster from your hand or deck, which is a super good effect. We then play 2 copies of the Dark Satellarknight. Dark Satellarknight is really good for making Triumvirate, because it has the ability all face-up monsters on the field become dark. And you also detach a material from this card and then discard a card to special summon from your extra deck one light Satellarknight monster that's an XZ monster by using this face-up card you control as XZ material, essentially being able to make a copy of Triumvirate for 2 instead of 3 materials, which is really good. We then play a single copy of our Satellarknight Constellar Diamond. This card is just really good at locking down dark monsters, and it's a fantastic card in this deck. It's a definite one of. I don't feel like you need 2 copies of this card, because once you put it on the field against a dark deck, they're going to have a really tough time outing this card, and it's super easy to summon because during your main phase 2, you can also XZ summon this card using a Satellarknight XZ monster that you control as XZ material, except another copy of this card, basically making this card like a copy of Downer Magician, which is just really, really cool. But this card also has a really insane effect that basically, while this card has XZ material, neither player can send cards from the deck to the graveyard, and any card that returns from the graveyard to the hand is banished instead. And then during either player's turn, when an opponent's dark monster activates its effect, you can detach material from this card and negate the activation if you do destroy that card, which is an awesome effect. We then play a single copy of Durandal. Durandal is really good in the deck. I sometimes make this on top of my copy of Ptolemaeus, which is why I play this card as a one of. It's pretty good in the deck because when a monster effect is activated on the field, or when a normal spell trap card is activated, you can detach a material from this card, and then the activated effect becomes destroy spell trap that your opponent controls, which is pretty good because it almost becomes a negate, and I do summon it if I draw into Scythe. So this card is a definite one of in deck, but it also can disrupt your opponent's combos because you can detach a material from this card, and each player with a hand shovels their entire hand in the deck and then draws the same number of cards that they shuffled into the deck, which can be really good. We then play a single copy of Cyber Dragon Nova to be able to make on top of Ptolemaeus, and then to make on top of the Nova, we make a copy of Infinity to give us a walking negate in the deck, and being able to gobble up your opponent's monsters, which is just really insane. We then play a single copy of Utopia Double. Utopia Double is really good in the deck to be able to detach a material from this card, search a copy of Double or Nothing, and then once you do, you'll make a copy of Utopia on top of it. Utopia comes out at 5,000 attack points, and then you attack into the opponent with the copy of Utopia, but not directly, but attack into an opponent's monster, negate the attack with Utopia's effect, and then once you do, you drop Double or Nothing to attack again for 10,000 attack points. We then play a single copy of Abyss Dweller. Abyss Dweller just locks down the graveyard, so this card is a really good one in the deck. And then finally, a single copy of Double A Zeus, because Double A Zeus is just really good in the deck with all of the XZ cards that we're playing in here to be able to board wipe the field. So, that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. This deck is super fun to be able to play. If you guys have never played Satellarknight, it is the perfect time with Ptolemaeus being back at 3. It's just absolutely insane this card is back at 3. It's super good in this deck. It's just a really good card. So, anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.